أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يحصي نعماه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتهدون. الذي بعد فلا يرى وقرب فشهد النجوى تبارك وتعالى. والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا بالقاسم محمد والأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. واللعنة الدائمة الباقية لأعدائهم من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم: هو الذي بعث في الأمين رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة. صلوات منك برا. It is a Thursday night program which coincides with a special majlis in memory of Marhum Sayyid Asad Jafri, whose sudden death really has shocked the community. And we have so many, events in the last 3-4 days. And this is one of the majlis to remember him and to pray for his elevation of his soul, inshallah. He touched people at different level, especially when it comes to the younger generation and the youths. He was an alim who was ba'amal. And that is the very important point that we have to, reflect on that. When we talk about the concept of ulema, you have to realize, it's not only the knowledge and ilm which is sufficient. Basically, the ulama at a much, much lower level are continuing the message of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In the service of the servants of Imam Asr Ajalallahu Ta'ala Faraj Sharif. Essentially, an objective of an alim should be the three dimensions mentioned in Surah Jummah for Rasulullah. Yatulu alayhim ayatihi. Number one, to make the community familiar with the Quran. And after that, the issue where yuzakihim. The alim has to purify the people. We don't have a booth here for baptism. We don't have a schedule where you come and we pour the water on you. No, here purification is not in the physical sense. We are talking about purification on a spiritual level, on the level of akhlaq, and on the level of thought. And only after that we come to the issue وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةِ. Then you come to the process of teaching the Quran and wisdom. And this is important that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't talk about the Prophet that he will only teach the Quran to you. No, hikmah, the main example of that would be the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself. And so during the growth of the Shia community, even during the days of the Imams, there were individuals whom we can classify them as ulama. Those who were the ashab of the Imams, taught by them, trained by them, And in many, many places we see those Shias who lived far away from Medina. When they would go and visit the Imams, they would say, Imam, I don't have access to you. There were no telephones, no telegrams, no emails, nothing. If we have an issue, what do? I cannot come all the way to the city of Medina all the time. An Imam would refer that, well, in your city you have so and so person who knows the ahadith of my father or my forefathers, or he knows, he has been trained by me. Why don't you refer to him? And so this existed even during the era of the Imams themselves. And it became more important, this role of ulema, after the ghibat of the 12th Imam, Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Faraju Sharif. The role of ulama in that sense, and the need of ulama, I would call, is so important that even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about it in the Quran. Can everyone hear me? Why do I feel like the volume is fine? Okay. Salawat. Surah Tawbah, the 9th surah of the Quran, is a very important surah. It's one of the surahs which was revealed towards the end of the life of the Prophet. Surah Ma'idah is even after that. And so this is the last days of Rasulullah, the last years of Rasulullah. And in that Surah Tawbah, it's interesting that there is a whole series of ayat after, ayat number 100 and onwards, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the importance of jihad. To go out for a physical jihad, to fight for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And He emphasizes that quite a lot. And Quran, says the mujahideen are at a higher level. But then all of a sudden, when it comes to ayat number 124 of Surah Tawbah, you will see as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts a break in that emphasis. He says, well, it is important for people to go for jihad. But then He says, not everyone. The ayat comes in, وَمَا كَانَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ لِيَنْفَرُوا كَافَّةً. It is not right for the believers, for all of them together to go for jihad. It is not everybody's responsibility. He says, فَلَوْلَا نَفَرَ مِنْ كُلِّ فِرْقَةٍ مِّنْهُمْ طَائِفَةٌ لِيَتَفَقَّهُوا فِي الدِّينِ. Why should not a group from every section of the community go forth and travel so that they may become learned in religion? So we see the ayat come in where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is emphasizing mu'mineen, go for jihad. Then all of a sudden He says, okay, it's not for everyone. We have situations in some countries where say, everybody has to go for the military, training. But then there are certain exemptions. In Islam, the exemption would be for talib al-ilm, for those who are going for religious studies. And why? For what? لِيَتَفَقَّهُوا فِي الدِّينِ, so that they may become learned in the matters of religion. Not only for their own sake. The ayat later on explains why. لِيُنْظِرُ قَوْمُهُمْ إِذَا رَجَعُوا إِلَيْهِمْ. So that once they have gone and studied properly, they have refined themselves, become learned, when they go back to their community, then لِيُنْظِرُوا, then they will warn the people. This is right and this is wrong. لَعَلَّهُمْ يَحْذُرُونَ. Hopefully the community will listen and be warned. So if you look at this ayat of Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that, at every stage in Muslim history, in every era, actually in every part of the world, in every community, there should be some people who should go and dedicate their life, their time and energy in seeking religion, not only for themselves, but also for the community. So the vision of an Islamic society, according to this ayat of Quran, is that, Allah divides people into two categories. There will be a smaller group of the people who dedicate their life to go and learn religion for themselves first, and then to come and guide the community. And the rest of the community would be there. The function of the first group is to warn them, and the duty of the second group is to be warned. This is Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahy al Munkar. At a very higher level, you are talking about the process of one is doing ijtihad, the other is doing taqleed. People have confusion. Yes, these are all new bid'ah, this and that. Well, this is the process of it. Not everybody goes to medical school to become a professor of medical science. Majority of them come back, serve in the hospitals or their own medical clinics. There are some who still maintain their own scholarship, their research work, and they go on teaching the medical students. That is the level of ijtihad. All of them are doing the same thing, but they are different grades and levels. And so when we talk about this concept that the community needs ulama at different level, this is not a concept which is away from the Quran. It is enshrined in the Quran itself. Salawat Pranik Barat. Just for the sake of, keeping the Thursday timing in mind, let me just, contain myself, not digress here and there. I wanted to share with you just a selected couple of hadiths on the importance of the role of ulama in the era of ghaibat. And these two hadiths actually are, which has come to us from Imam Hassan al-Askari alayhi salatu wasalam. It's important to realize, sometimes we hear these words by a very small group, but they think that, they have discovered the reality. And they know something that the rest of the community doesn't know. Sometimes they call themselves akhbari. They don't even know what does the word akhbari mean. What is the reality behind it, and what is the historical concept of that? Who are akhbariyun? Who are usuliyun? It's another topic for another time. But sometimes they say, I don't do taqleed of ulama. I do the taqleed of imam. So it's a very good, way of putting it to run away from this whole concept. What do you mean by you're doing taqleed of imam? Do you have the ability to go and read the ahadith? You can do the tafsir of the Quran? Can you, analyze the ahadith, what is authentic, what is not authentic? Sometimes the ahadith would be contradicting. Do you have the ability and the mechanism and the expertise to how to reconcile them? It is a science by itself. You just don't go and open Usul Kafi or another translation of a hadith book and say, this is what I'm going to do. Even your namaz, you will not be able to do that. This is where the issue of ijtihad and taqleed becomes very important. This is where we have to realize that whenever our imams talk about it, that this was a system which was already put in place from the days of the sixth imam. so that when the community reaches to the era of ghaibat, where they don't have direct access to the imam, ulema will be there to guide them. There is a difference on the level of the imam ma'soom and an ulema, of course. But that would be the second best situation in the era of ghaibat. And when they use this word, oh, we don't do taqleed of ulama, we do taqleed of imam, they don't even realize the status of the imam. You don't do taqleed of the imam, you do the ita'at of imam. Taqleed is for ulama. A marja doesn't have control on your life. He doesn't even know you. He doesn't even know who is my muqallid. Other than those who visit them, but they are in a group that don't even recognize them or know their names. Mujtahid's function is only you ask a question. This is the mas'ala, what is the ruling? He will say it's allowed or not. He doesn't even go after you to see whether you followed it or not. He doesn't have control on you. Imam has absolute right on you. You have to absolutely obey the imam, not do taqleed of the imam. A marja does not have a right to say to you that you should give talaq to your wife. But if the imam comes to you and say you have to divorce your wife, you can't say, oh, is there a hadith there? Marja, you can ask that question there. There is a difference. So even this, when they use these words, just to get away from taqleed and say, oh, I don't want to do taqleed of the ulama, I want to do taqleed of the imam, they don't even realize what is imamat. They have absolute control on our life. Whereas a marja taqleed, a mujtahid only gives fatwa. Salawat. In the ahadith that which have come in the praise of the ulama and their role in the era of ghaibat, there is a term used, yatim. Aitam Ali Muhammad. Aitam is plural of yatim. And Aitam Ali Muhammad means the orphans of Ali Muhammad. Our imams, even before the ghaibat of the 12th imam, have used that term for the Shia community in the era of ghaibat. We are all Aitam Ali Muhammad. We are spiritually orphaned. In a sense, we don't have direct access to the imam of our time. And this is the term which comes in our hadith in different ways. Let me just read to you one hadith here, which is actually from 11th Imam, quoting his forefathers, going to Imam Musa al-Kazim alayhi salatu wasalam. Where he says, فَقِيهٌ وَاحِدٌ ينقض يتيما من آيات أيتامنا المنقطعين عنا وعن مشاهدتنا بتعليم ما هو محتاج إليه. The Imam says that one jurist, the expert of Islamic laws, who rescues an orphan from our orphans. And who is our orphan? Is referring to those who have been cut off from us and cannot meet us anymore. So, as a faqih, a mujtahid who rescues an orphan from our orphans by teaching what is required for him, that one faqih ashaddu ala al-iblis min alfi abid. That one mujtahid is heavier for the shaitan than 1,000 worshippers. Why? Because the worshipper, he is only concerned about himself. Whereas the faqih is guiding and taking care of the community at large. And this is where we have to realize that وَلِذَلِكَ هُوَ أَفْضَلُ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ مِنْ أَلْفَ عَابِدٍ وَأَلْفَ أَلْفَ عَابِدٍ. He says, therefore, this faqih who is rescuing the Aitami Ali Muhammad from the traps of the shaitan, he is better in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than 1,000 worshippers or thousands of worshippers. Salawat padne ek baar. Another hadith that Imam Hassan Askari alayhi salam quotes from his grandfather, Imam Muhammad Taqi al-Jawad alayhi salam. Salawat padne ek baar. Remember the 10th Imam, the 9th, 10th, and 11th Imam, they all were preparing the community for the time they will have no access to the Imams. And that's where these ahadiths are coming at that time, where the 9th Imam says, من تكفل بأيتام آل محمد المنقطعين عن إمامهم المتحيرين في جهلهم الأسارى في أيدي شياطينهم. And the hadith goes on that, whoever takes the responsibility or takes care of the orphans of Ahlul Bayt, who have been cut off from the Imams, who are confused in their ignorance, and who are trapped by in the hands of the shaitan and the enemies of Ahlul Bayt. And when that one person, rescues them from this confusion and from the grip of the shaitan by expelling their doubts through the proofs from their Lord and their Imams, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will fulfill His promise to them. And then the Imam says, you have to realize such a person, such a mujtahid or a faqih, who's taking care of the Aitami Ali Muhammad, has more honor in the eyes of Allah than the honor that the sky has over the earth. When we compare the sky and the earth, we say the sky is more higher. Not only that, the Imam says, no, he has more honor in the eyes of Allah than when you look at the arsh of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the kursi of Allah, and the hujab ala sama, the veils in the heavens, all of them have more honor than the sky itself. So the sky is more honorable compared to the earth, and there are other entities out there in the heavenly realm who are more honorable than the sky itself. And Imam says that a mujtahid and a faqih has higher honor than compared to the common people. He is like the full moon, where the rest are small stars in the heaven. Salawat padne ek baar. But the word of caution is, again, I would like to go back to the early statement. It's not only knowledge. It's not only expertise in fiqh and hadith, and religious sciences which is sufficient. We do not only just follow anyone whom we say, well, he is really at the highest level, has the top degree on Islamic sciences, has done PhD, doctorate, postdoctorate, honors and everything. No, we also look for a person who, with the knowledge, has the taqwa and righteousness. That is the issue which becomes more important for us in that way. And this is something where we have to keep in mind that our Imams have emphasized this point. You do not go only for somebody who has the knowledge. You have to look at the character of the person, the righteousness, the akhlaq of the person, and the adalat of the person. That is an essential condition there. For example, Imam Hassan Askari alayhi salatu wasalam again, in a long hadith, which is actually, this is a hadith musnad there. It has its own chain of narration going all the way to the sixth Imam, where Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salatu was-salam talks about the Jewish community. And he says one of the negative point about the Jewish community is that they blindly follow their rabbis, the religious scholars. You know, some of these so-called akhbaris, they say, oh, look at this hadith. But they don't read the whole hadith. The problem is they read only one part of it. You see, and then the sixth Imam goes on to say that the way we condemn the Jewish community for blindly following their rabbis, then he says, and I'm giving you the exact translation here, and similarly, if the common people of our community know in their religious scholars certain qualities, that they are openly sinful, they have strong racial solidarity, racial mentality, their greed for the vanities of this world and its haram things. They are opposed to those who actually are righteous people, and they help those who are their friends but they are sinful people. Then the Imam says even such people who blindly follow these kinds of religious scholars, they are also condemned like the Jewish community. But then he goes on to say, this is what I'm saying, the last part, people forget that. He says, فَأَمَّا مَنْ كَانَ مِنَ الْفَقَهَا. So you had to go and find the fuqaha and the jurists and mujtahideen who have good qualities, not these ones, that they are openly, sinning, or they have this racism in their mind and in their attitude, greed for the dunya, would sell their dunya, their deen for their dunya. He says, فَأَمَّا مَنْ كَانَ مِنَ الْفُقَهَاءِ. But if there is anyone from among your jurists, صَائِنًا لِنَفْسِهِ, who is in control of himself. He is not abd al-shahwa, he is abd of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. حَافِظًا لِدِينِهِ, he is the protector of the religion. مُخَالِفًا لِهَوَاهِ, he constantly struggles against the evil desires. مُطِيئًا لِأَمْرِ مَوْلَاهِ, and he is obedient to the commands of his master, Allah, Rasul, and the Imam. When you find a faqih and a mujtahid, or the ulema and the mujtahideen of this category, فَلِلْعَوَامِ أَنْ يُقَلِّدُوهُ, then the people should do their taqleed and follow them. So the sixth Imam says that look at the qualities, it's not only the knowledge. These are the qualities, and this is where we emphasize on this point. And Imam that then makes a very critical statement. He says, وَذَلِكَ لَا يَكُونُ إِلَّا بَعْضَ فُقَهَاءِ الشِّيعَةِ لَا جَمِيعُهُمْ. He says these qualities will not be found among all Shia ulama, only among some of them. And so even in your selection of the mujtahid that you do the taqleed or you follow, you have to be vigilant and careful about this issue. Salawat padhne ke baad. If somebody has a tendency that when he realizes, people like something, although his knowledge says it's haram, he says, okay, yeah, kar lo, koi baat nahi. Allah Rahim hai, Kareem hai. Dande aap par padenge wo. You have to be very careful about, these kind of scholars. Or somebody who comes and says, our religion, 80% of it is fabrication. Oh, but then why you are in this role? Why should we even listen to you? So we have to be careful. We cannot just say, oh yes, this person has this degree, whether from the east or west, from the Hawza or university, doesn't matter. Goodness is in both places, and corruption is also in both places. There is no place in this world which is Jannah. No. And this is where we have to be careful about this issue. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent this deen and He has protected it. There will always be people who take on this role, and when you find the qualities which are required, as the Imams have asked us to look for them, then those are the people you should trust and follow. Salawat. And this is where we remember and pray for Marhum Sayyid Asad Jafari, a person, in a relatively short tenure of his work in the community. Besides Al-Mahdi Society, where he grew up and he worked with them from very beginning, but for the rest of the community, it's a very short time. But it was his sincerity, his humility. He was not arrogant. He was never ashamed to come and ask a question if he didn't know the answer. And I'm saying it now, after he is no more. And these are the things that we have to, look when we talk about the people. Amir al-Mu'minin al-Balagha says something very profound. He says, if you don't know something, just say, I don't know. When my late father took me to Qom, I was 15 years old. After settling me down, when he and my mother and brother and sister were going back, at Tehran airport, my father gave me 3 advices. One of them, he said, remember, even if you face largest of audience, and if they ask you a question and you don't know the answer, don't hesitate to say, I don't know. Don't make an answer just like that. Don't be ashamed to say, I don't know. It was only later on when I studied Nahj al-Balagha, I realized it was actually a quotation from Amir al-Mu'minin. And so when we talk about this process, you have to think about it. And this is where, we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept the good deeds and the passion that Asad Jafari had to guide especially the youths and the children in the community, especially when it comes to his activity in a year and a half that he was at a Sadiq school. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala elevate his soul and his status and keep him in the proximity of Muhammad and ala Muhammad, inshaAllah. जब किसी शख्स के गुज़रने के बाद उसकी खूबियों का अंदाज़ा होता है, कभी कभी किसी इंसान के रोल का एहसास भी नहीं होता है, इसलिए कि कुछ चीज़ों को हम फॉर ग्रांटेड ले लेते हैं। जब आप मिस करते हैं तब एहसास होता है कि खला है। वो खला जब तक नहीं था आप समझ रहे थे है, लेकिन जब वो शख्स हट जाता है वहाँ से तब एक वैक्यूम पैदा हो जाता है, एक वॉइड है जिसको फील करना इतना आसान नहीं होता है। उस वक्त पे एहसास होता है कि लोगों ने किस तरह से उस शख्स पे भरोसा किया, और भरोसा बहुत ही नेचुरल था, उसके अखलाक की वजह से, किरदार की वजह से। बाद में एहसास होता है कि ये शख्स था, और जब भी हमें मसलन ज़रूरत पड़ी चले गए, अब वो नहीं रहा, तब जाके एहसास होता है कि कितनी बड़ी नेमत थी जिसकी हमने कदर नहीं की है। करबला में आप देखें जो हमें मनाज़िर मिलते हैं, सिर्फ़ एक मंज़र को हम पेश करके मजलिस को ख़त्म करना चाहेंगे कि जनाब अब्बास में शुजाअत व बहादुरी थी, जनाब अब्बास में बसीरत भी थी, انسائٹ کی جو بات ہوتی ہے انٹلیکچولی، خود ہمارے چوتھے امام بیان کرتے ہیں کہ جناب عباس صرف فزیکلی ایک شجاع اور بہادر نہیں تھے، بلکہ انٹلیکچولی بھی اس لیول پہ تھے کہ انسائٹ تھی دین کے معاملات میں. اور جب تک وہ تھے سب کو اعتماد تھا، سب کو بھروسہ تھا. جناب عباس آتے ہیں جب امام حسین کے سامنے اور کہا ہے کہ مولا ہمیں اجازت چاہیے کہ ہم جا کے اس قوم کفار سے لڑیں، اس لیے کہ میرا نفس جو ہے اب تنگ ہو رہا ہے. اس وقت حسین ابن علی نے جواب نہیں دیا. عباس کے سراپا کو دیکھا ہے اور ایک جملہ کہا ہے، عباس اذا مضیت تفرق عسکری، عباس اگر تم چلے جاؤ گے میرا لشکر ختم ہو جائے گا. عجب نہیں کہ عباس نے کہا کہ مولا اب وہ لشکر ہی کہا ہے، لیکن حسین یہ کہنا چاہتے تھے عباس جب تک تم ہو میرے سامنے میرا پورا لشکر زندہ ہے. یہ تو سکینہ کی آواز آئی، الاتش کی آواز بلند ہوئی، بہانہ مل گیا. امام نے کہا کچھ کرنا ہے تو ان بچوں کے پانی کا انتظام کرو. جب چلنے لگے کنیز نے آواز دی کہ عباس جانے سے پہلے زینب نے تمہیں یاد کیا ہے. خیمے میں آتے ہیں، جناب زینب کہتی ہیں عباس ہم تمہیں روکیں گے نہیں، لیکن جانے سے پہلے سن لو تمہیں ایک بات کہ میں بچپنے سے بابا سے سنتی تھی کہ ایک وقت آئے گا کہ میری چادر کو لوٹا جائے گا، مجھے اسیر اور قیدی بنایا جائے گا، میرے بازو میں رسن باندھی جائے گی. مجھے یقین تھا بابا نے کہا ہے برحق ہے، لیکن پھر تم پیدا ہوئے، جوان ہوئے، تمہارے شجاعت کا عالم پوری دنیا میں شہرا ہو گیا. کبھی کبھی میں سوچتی تھی کہ وہ بہن جس کا عباس جیسا بھائی ہو، کس کی مجال ہے کہ اس کی چادر کو لوٹے، اسے اسیر و قیدی بنائے. لیکن آج جو بھی جا رہا ہے زندہ لوٹ کے نہیں آ رہا ہے. آج مجھے یقین ہے بابا نے جو کہا تھا وہ ہو کے رہے گا. بس آخری منظر ایک پیش کرنے کا چاہیں گے اب کہ جب امام حسین علیہ السلام اپنے گھوڑے پر آخری جنگ جب لڑ رہے تھے اور جب 3 شعبے کا ایک تیر آیا ہے اور حسین کے سینے میں جب پیوست ہو گیا، حسین اپنے کو گھوڑے پر سنبھال نہ سکے. جب حسین گھوڑے پر ڈگمگانے لگے، مشکل کے وقت انسان کو وہی یاد آتا ہے جس پر بھروسہ تھا. حسین نے 3 بار کہا تھا واہ عباسا، عباس تم کہاں ہو. حسین اپنے کو گھوڑے پر نہ بس سنبھال. الا لعنۃ اللہ علی القوم الظالمین سیعلم الذین ظلموا ای منقلب ینقلبون. خداوند اس قلبہ قبول فرما، ہمارے گناہ کو بخش دے، ہماری توفیقات میں اضافہ فرما. خداوند عالم اسلام میں امن کی فضا پیدا کر، اسپیشلی فلسطین کی جو حالات ہیں ان کو اپنے حفظ امان میں رکھ. جو دشمنان اسلام ہیں ان کی تمام صلاحیتوں کو نیست و نابود فرما. امام کے ظہور میں تعجل فرما. ربنا تقبل منا انک انت السمیع العلیم. ایک بار سورہ فاتحہ، 3 بار سورہ اخلاص کی تلاوت کر کے مرحومین کے ارواح کو بخش دے.